If you've noticed lately that there's been a lot of people having severe emotional responses about what they're seeing and sensing out in the world and the stories, and you're going to find a lot of relief and support for your journey in this week's episode. So, guys, let's chat about the Fifth Amendment. Ooh, that's a big one.
It's been in the news.
Yes, pleading the Fifth. I don't know if anyone out there has seen Dr. Fauci, but he pled the Fifth for the entire, week of his hearings with the Senate. And I just wanted to find out, well, I said, what is pleading the Fifth anyway? And I found out that it is about you use your legal right to stay silent and refuse to answer questions so you do not make yourself look guilty or admit to a crime.
Right.
It's a right against a right you have so you don't have to self-incriminate.
From an ex-FBI agent.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you've committed a crime or suspected of committing a crime, you don't have to cooperate with authorities about those details because you may be incriminating yourself. And of course, many people will take it because they don't want something to be taken the wrong way or used against them. So it's useful. It's one of those concepts the founding fathers had, and they put it in the Constitution, so that right against self-incrimination.
So what's the discernment spiritually around pleading the Fifth in that situation with Fauci?
Well, okay. Well, for some of the people that maybe are listening overseas, this may not be as big of a topic for other people, but we've had.
Well, I think it's pretty big. You know, the world news is everybody knows what's going on anymore.
So he was head of the our health and
whatever
safety component of it, and a key figure during the COVID times. And so they've got him in there for things that he said that that Congress believes was untrue or have been proven to be false. So he's in there. And the big thing that I am initially taking away from is what you brought up. Has to do with not putting myself in a position to keep hurting myself. That's even though that's an amendment in the American Constitution, that's an energy thing. Like, how often have I got involved in something that I don't need to be involved in, but I keep doing it anyway? Or I'll get into an argument and I'll keep arguing even though this is not healthy for me. So just on the first stab at this, if I'm involved in something that's not going to be positive for me, I have the power to change that. I don't have to keep doing that. So I have the power to adjust my energy. I have the power to change whatever it is I'm doing and not be controlled or manipulated by things outside of me. That's the first wave.
Okay, so it's interesting when this was going on, I was catching snippets at the end of the day. And this gave me I had such a visceral response from all that was coming out and what all the people were saying, because from day dot, I knew there was something not right about this whole situation. Mm-hmm. I knew there was something not right about the vaccines. And so I took ivermectin. So I've done all the things that they were saying.
And it worked.
But I held in so much for so many years that I had such a visceral emotional response to the clarity and to the awareness that was just bursted in front of Dr. Fauci. And he just sat there, and I plead the Fifth. And like literally my whole heart was just like, it just stirred up. So I want to share a situation that happened from this. So I was on fire, basically, because it really, like, I have held in so much for so many years, when I know for a fact that so many people that I personally know, we knew someone that died of terminal cancer. We've had several family members that have had things with their eyes and different things that have gone along with taking all these vaccines. Mm-hmm. And it's been one thing after another. And I've held it in. I've not said anything because that's their journey. That's that's the bigger spiritual picture. It's their journey. It's whatever they're needing to experience is their experience, and I have mine. But in holding in all of this, when all this came out the other day, I called someone to share, hey, have you watched what's going on? And this person's like, no, I really haven't. And I just kind of said, well, it's things that I've believed in. And I know from my feelings and my whole soul essence that these are truths for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not other people, but for me. And then this person, it evoked an emotional response in this person where she came back at me about something else. And it was on fire. So like my fire stoked her fire. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I started with this about the emotional response and how prevalent it is in all of us, but it wasn't even about the same thing. So as she went off on her little rant, I said, I didn't even call about this. I'm actually talking about the Fauci and the hearings. And then she went on and on. And I just said, bye-bye, click. So it was so interesting how these things that come up and stimulate each one of us within us, how do we move through them? Quite interesting. So that was my just little thing I had going on this week.
Well, and I had the insight when Teresa was experiencing this, and Spirit said to me, "Oh, because I've had similar experiences, and I thought at different times in my life, and I thought, yeah, I go to have an exchange, a communication exchange with somebody, and I'm feeling some emotion about it, and my expectation is that they're going to sort of reciprocate on the exchange. And in fact, in your situation, the person you're talking about actually had similar views to you, was suspicious of the vaccine and what was going on. So you thought you had a kindred spirit, you might say, in that area. And so as I was reflecting on it and I was listening, Spirit said to me, when you communicate your emotions, it's that emotional energy that communicates out and it stimulates somebody else's, that can stimulate that in another person, their emotional energy. So that's going to come out for them. And so instead of having a clear exchange about something, because being so wrapped up in that emotional energy, which isn't my true feelings, it's just how I've been, brought up to respond and how we respond. And I mean, emotions are good. They're reflecting. It's a way of communicating. But it struck me how, oh yeah, I've been in similar situations as to what Teresa's describing. And it never how the heck did that happen? How did I get off on this other thing? And that's when Spirit, as I sort of wondered, and I took a deep breath and let Spirit share with it. It's like, oh, well, when that emotional energy goes out, that's what's going to come back. The people are so sensitive. That's what they're going to pick up. And I have had other experiences where I'm just sharing my true feelings. I'm relaxed. I'm clear about something. And that stimulates that in other people as well. I guess it's, what do I want to communicate? My true feelings or emotions?
What if you didn't have to navigate uncertain times alone? What if you had a steady place to land? A place where your intuition is strengthened, not dismissed, where your spiritual questions are welcomed, and where growth feels grounded instead of overwhelming. Welcome to Reawaken. Reawaken is a monthly membership for people who know there's more awareness, more clarity, more connection, and who are ready to access it in a practical way. Inside, you'll receive monthly life regroupings to realign and refocus, ongoing tools to strengthen discernment, intuition, and emotional awareness. This isn't about escaping the world. It's about becoming steady within it. It's about learning to trust your inner compass. It's about moving from reaction to awareness. And it's about remembering who you are and walking forward with clarity. If you're ready to feel supported, aligned, and spiritually grounded, Reawaken is here. Join us and reawaken the part of you that already knows.
I
How
mean,
have you been stimulated this week, Tiger, with this?
Yeah.
Have you been stimulated?
oh yeah. So a couple things to that, and it revolves about like attracts like, which is what you're saying, that you put it out, it's going to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of full circle here. So one of the things that I was really noticed during those hearings, for those any of you who watched it, he did the Fifth Amendment on everything. It wasn't just on questions that related to the area that they were trying to find out if he was going to get into that, right?
Dr. Fauci, what day of the week is it?
Okay, so it got into that kind of things. What color tie do you have? This kind of thing, and he would plead the Fifth. And so part of that is because good attorneys will tell you, if you open a door, if you open a certain door, then they can come after you there, right? That becomes an open door thing where your protections don't work anymore because you're now reopening. In essence, you're reopening the case. You don't have any protection, right? But it's an example where that, and I'm starting to call this the AI loop, the human AI loop, because when I get caught into my intellect, I get caught into my emotions, because emotions are born from the intellect. They're not born from my true feelings, right? When I get caught there, that becomes this world that I just deal with. And until I change it, I am going to be in that loop. I'm going to be creating that in there, and I'm going to be attracting from there. So I'm going to put it out, and I'm going to get back, and I'm going to reinforce my bias so I can go back into the whole thing, right? And your point of saying there was a certain point you said, wait a minute, click. Like, that's not what I'm here for, right? So that number one, that energy of just, what day of the week is it? What color is your tie? And he's pleading the Fifth Amendment. It's like, okay, so there's an energy where there's an natural insecurity because I'm working off solely my intellect. I'm solely working off the emotions. So I'm going to feel insecure about anything that moves the needle a little bit. If I'm in my nice little place and I don't have to go do anything or say anything, or I can stay in my little parameters, I'm always going to be safe and happy. But the moment anything changes, I get insecure, right? So I lose my common sense. Instead of saying, yeah, the tie is actually a little bit yellow. What else?
I think that's a great way of putting it, is you lose your common sense. I've lost my common sense under those situations. I can't even discern anything if I get so caught up in my head.
Just to kind of put some connection to that. So AI, we've had podcasts about AI. AI is starting to really push into the music world. So the amount of uploads that are AI created, so in other words, songs that are generated by AI, are more than a third, almost a third of all content going up now, and it is growing.
Wow!
So of the pie, if you take a pie and put it into three parts, one whole third is nothing but AI generated, right? Now you take one step farther and you say, okay, of the pie, how many people are actually rating and listening to that third? That is to say, the AI part. It's less than 1%.
Wow.
Right? It's a tiny little sliver of people actually listening to it. My point for bringing it up is, if it's not something, because music is supposed to be something that invokes our feelings. It's saying something that I don't have words for, right? So, but when it's all intellect, it's not there. It's hollow, right? Sure, it'll help me keep the beat. It'll help keep the beat, but it does. The creativity is not there. So going full circle back to the point, if I'm stuck in my head, if I'm stuck in the intellect, I'm stuck in the emotions, and someone stimulates that in me, then it doesn't matter what your topic is. I'm going to go find my topic. Right. I'm going to go react because I'm on that emotional track. I'm on that. My internal AI is kicked in, right? No creativity, no feeling. It's all this loop of emotions.
Well, I think to me, it's a benefit. I mean, because no matter what the scenario might be, if it's, Iran,
Yeah.
if it's Fauci, if it's, earthquakes around the world, whatever it is
Right.
that is being stimulated and stimulates emotional responses in people, it's actually a good thing, 'cause people are actually then feeling something. That's the way I look at it, because I know there's a lot of people that have a hard time with their feelings and getting to that place of their true feelings, that kind, loving part of us, of, understanding how we each roll individually as souls and then collectively also. So these stories that come out, and that for myself, the emotional response that it stimulated and the visceral feelings that I had
Mhm.
about it, I felt a kindred connection and soul connection to the people who were sharing. Dr. Fauci, this is what happened to this person. This is what happened to these children. This is what happened from the vaccine. This is what the people that got injured. And I could just feel it in my whole being. So how these stories, come up and what they evoke in each of us, I look at it like it's a blessing, even though again, it's, some challenging situations and scenarios that are brought up, especially around different situations around the world. But if it's something that stimulates all of us to eventually come together, it's a good thing.
Well, emotions are a valid part of how we communicate.
Yeah.
It's just when all we're talking about is getting out of balance with it. So what I hear
Oh, I got in balance real quick.
Mhm.
Tiger saying is that, yeah, it seemed ridiculous that there's a legal argument against even needing to plead the fifth
right.
if you've already received a pardon for the past. So now, if you're truly wanting to be of service, you're going to open up and say, well, this is what I was thinking, or here was the bigger picture, but there was no bigger picture with Fauci. That's probably the truth of it. And that's my feelings but not all of what he did was probably bad. It's just the guy got a little into his own power. He's a soul that's learning about power. And so as you were sharing, Teresa, too, like what I relate to is I'm very detached watching him communicate. I can understand from a intellectual point of view why he might take that tact. It doesn't feel clear because nothing's going to happen to this guy in the long run. He's going to go through some interim grief and they're going to charge him with contempt, but he's not, I'd be shocked if he ends up in jail or anything. He's 85 years old. But it's great if we get the facts. Like, what did we do? What could we have done better? Let's do something differently next time. So as long as we're moving from that feeling, then there's a positive way to go about regrouping that whole situation. But we're so controlled by emotions in this country and on this planet that we want to hit him with an emotion and then hit him back out with an emotion. And so you mentioned that I was talking about, one thing I don't do is I'm noticing I'm not feeling any. I watch out for that feeling of gloating that now Fauci's getting what he deserves, kind of a thing. And when I relax and I'm in my true feelings, gloating would be an emotion of, involved with that revenge, or that there's a fear at the very basis of the whole thing that, look, well, he's going to get his. And for me, it's more, wow, in the bigger picture, that's just a soul learning. And whether I like it or not, what I have to realize, and I'm going to tie this into what you were sharing, is that really who I have to be loyal to is myself and my true feelings, my sensitivity. Say true feelings, my sensitivity, my working with my guidance, because we knew years ago that we picked up with our sensitivity, there was something off. And we went and got facts through alternative media and other scientific experts. We knew that wasn't the science, and that's not how you go about science, is making edicts. It's, it's an evolving, getting the facts is an evolving kind of thing, in science. So I love it that, we are looking at this story because this is something that's happening, that's happened before. It's going to happen probably again until we hit a different level of consciousness on the planet. these are some of my thoughts, but that it's not a shock to me or a surprise. I'm observing what was going to be the natural follow through, of the whole scenario. But our sensitivity early on, we knew this. And so we didn't get the vaccine. And I am so glad I didn't. And we did do ivermectin, and we ended up getting Omicron and getting through it in a few days, by the time the thing morphs. So now that Fauci's diaries are clarifying what he really thought and then what he told the public, I mean, we need to know. I need to know, did I buy into that? Why did I buy into Fauci? What was I looking for somebody to take care of me? What are my feelings, my true feelings about that? But it's all part of our evolution. It's, I got a little fooled by that. Okay. I'm just, now I'm more aware.
So one of the things that has sometimes been brought up is there's two kinds of generals, peacetime general and a wartime general. And you want a wartime general when it's wartime, and you want a peacetime general when it's peacetime, right? Because you don't want a peacetime general in war because they're too administrative, and things just linger and things get worse. And you don't want a wartime general in peace because they tear stuff up. It's too aggressive. Spiritually, as you evolve, you have to have both in you. You have to have both. You have to know always that people come first, and you always have to be working based on that primal, practical energy should anything happen, right? If something should happen, okay, great. Am I breathing? Where's the water? Do I have food? It's like there's an immediate energy, and how can I work with that? And then there's the other part of that when everything's going great. Okay, how can I refine things, make things easier, etc. So inside me, I need to evolve up. So I'm both a wartime general and a peacetime general. This is an example where you have someone who is a peacetime general, but had been put into a position of wartime, right? In this case, the pandemic, right? So that's not, he has done a lot of positive things in the time that he was in
his career,
right. He has a long career. So there were a lot of positive things that he has done. The problem is he's not a wartime general. And when you have a wartime situation, he's not the right person. His energy is not ripe for that.
Yeah.
He's still working in that. That's not his niche where he came to work, right? He does a really good work in another area. So when that happens, there's a room for all kinds of chaos, because now the fallback is the emotion. The fallback is the intellect. That's the fallback. That's where I go to if I'm insecure, right? If I don't feel like, we've got a situation that requires some serious stuff, I need to move into that wartime general energy, right? This is why we put out those gold memberships that you share. It's because it helps me come back to that pivot point of I have always my feelings and what's practical and my experiences first. I also have my understandings, my pluses and minuses, and figuring things out so I can put my feelings into places where I know where it fits, and so forth. But if I just operate off of one, or I get pulled into just one, then I'm going to be reactive and I'm going to be emotional, because that's the backstop. That's what I've been trained to do. I watch TV. There's soap operas on there. I can't even watch the news anymore because it's all big soap opera. They want me to tune in and be emotional,
Right.
It's a game. So if I come back home to basically, I need both in me. I need to have that wartime general and that peacetime general in me. Then all of a sudden I can relax, because otherwise, you're right, I'm going to look for someone to take care of me, or I'm going to get angry that someone's trying to take care of me. Both of them aren't good.
Yeah.
right? Because I'm reacting to someone else rather than me just saying, hold on, I got my own. If the doctor tells me, oh, you're going to die, thank you for your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Been dying for 1,000 years, by the way. I'll recheck that and see if I'm going to go down your track or not.
Yeah.
Always it comes back down to me. And when I lose that pivot point, right, I'm a little bit of that kind of push back a little bit, not rebel, intellectual rebellion, innate rebellion, right? In other words, does it hit my true feelings? Wait a minute. This is what you're saying. Wait a minute. There's something off about this whole COVID thing like that for you. You're saying, no, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. So if I stay there, then I move smoothly to where I need to be. If I feel it, but then don't stay there and move out, I'm going to have a reaction, right? You're pushing on me. You're forcing me. Well, I can't, instead of saying, well, thank you for your opinion, right?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, that's the bottom line is I need both in my, which is why we do our regroupings every month, by the way. It's so that I can come back home to say, right, what is needed in this situation? I'll do what's needed in this situation.
Yeah. And I think that's unique for this game of life.
That's right.
Like you mentioned, in the sense of, because in this situation, and I know there's other situations also where, it was broadcasted on quite a few different, stations, YouTube, whatever. And then I noticed that it wasn't, because like at work, I have MSN on my computer and it's pretty left. And there was nothing on there about it. So it's interesting that how some people, depending upon, where they're at in their game of life and what part they're playing and what their beliefs are, they may not have any even, it may not even come their way. So that's what I look at all these situations too, and the different scenarios that we share about, week to week or every 2 weeks, whatever it is. And, how many people are being influenced by this one thing that's going on or even hearing about it? And how many people is it just passing by like the wind because they just don't need to know about it, or there's something that doesn't need to be uncovered for them? Unlike me, where, I don't hear everything, but the things I hear, I recognize now where I'm at, that I'm at a point that it assists my healing. It assists my layers of my onion. The next layer came off. So the other day when I called this person and I was raw and emotional, but afterwards I was like, whoa, I felt like I moved through 6 years of shit, really. I mean, that's really what I felt like I moved through. And it felt strong and powerful, even though it was, it hit a lot of very sensitive and raw places in me that have been there for quite a while.
Yeah. And I guess I'd ask, so what was that little fear or that concept that I had that just the dam burst open, or what we do when we explore spirituality from, a practical point of view is that what lifetimes have I lived in similar situations that have led to this, so that, finally I'm going to have this, I'm no longer going to disrespect what I'm picking up.
I felt validated. That's what it was.
And so you were talking about emotions being a good thing, and they are. I mean, they're a way we communicate. It's a way of me going, oh my God, I'm getting really emotional about what's going on underneath that, because when I go, when I meditate with my guidance, or we have a technique where we call it going to our sea of tranquility, really, and it's kind of a brief thing. It's not like hours. You just meditate in action almost. That, I get back to that bigger picture, and then I start to realize, planet Earth is just one part of my soul's overall existence. Now, day to day, I'm really right here and practical, and I'm enjoying every moment, because I don't know what it's like maybe living on another planet someplace and what opportunities exist. Planet Earth has certain, opportunities, and I'm focused in that, at this part of my existence. So this is pretty weird. We're talking about Fauci, and then we get into I'm having a bigger picture lifetime as a soul, But what I really mean to say by that is that if anything really stimulates me to an incapacity to enjoy myself or stay loyal to myself, then there's a concept there. Good, I just found out that there's still something there. And then how do I work with releasing that, or how do I get back to that bigger picture? How do I get back in balance, like, Tiger was sharing about?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes back to like the Reawaken membership, where you come together with like-minded people and you can express freely where you're at in this moment.
Without judgment and no therapy.
So I felt very validated from what I was hearing the Congress people share about what had been going on and the realities of what
the facts they'd uncovered.
What the facts have uncovered, what was in Fauci's, notebook and over and over and over. I felt validated. And so I wanted to share that with someone. But then with their experience, it was not the same. So I wasn't in my regrouping circle with like-minded people that no matter what comes out and said, I'll accept you for where you're at and you'll accept me for where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, how long can I go without true outflow? How long will what's going to happen to the real me, the soul, the consciousness in me, if I can't truly express myself? Before long, I'm going to start suffering, and the soul will cry out, and the body will react, and emotions will come. Because if I can't feel like I can just be me and communicate cleanly and clearly, and then that gets suppressed by the environment or people in the environment, or worst of the worst is my own concepts and ideas I have about myself and the world. That one's the worst, because that at least the other one I can know what I'm rebelling against, right? The other one is, oh, that's my first 7 years. That's mama and papa, or that's, the thing I brought with me. How long can I go? I can't go very long without the body suffering, without attracting confusion. So when I feel something that it doesn't feel good, or it's something that's not right, I need to find a way to get more facts on it. I need to get myself to that place where I feel secure again. Because if I don't, I'm going to suffer. My body's going to wane. And ultimately, I'm going to operate on less than my potential. I'm not going to be 100% here when that person in front of me that I've set up with my guidance a whole lifetime so I could work with that person, at this moment, I won't have the energy to really be there and do that, because I'm all wrapped up in this pent up energy. So like you're saying, finding those key points to be able to share, and here's this thing that shows up, let me do something about that. That's critical. That's why we do these programs. That's why we're in this business, is because we know what it feels like when I can't move forward personally or spiritually. There's a search, a thirst that I have a need for. And if I can't fulfill that, I'm going to be groping and grabbing at things and getting involved in things that aren't even any of my business, because I'm searching. So bottom line is, outflow is a key, and my expression or my emotions is a part of my outflow. All I have to remember is that's not my true feelings. The expression, the emotions are there to help me communicate what I feel inside. So that it's a great barometer. Tom, you brought this up. It's a great barometer to know where I'm at. That if I'm sharing about something, and I've had this happen, I'll share another story after we go around, but I've had a situation where I'll be sharing something and all of a sudden I just feel like emotional or crying, or maybe it's something I'm listening to taps, at the end of the day, and they're bringing the flag down, or I'm watching something with a baby, and all of a sudden I feel emotional. I'm almost crying, this little daughter, going and saying to her hello to her dad when he comes back from work. Oh, daddy's home, something. And then all of a sudden I feel this emotion, and it's like, okay, that's telling me something. Because if I was in that situation all the time, I wouldn't be emotional. I would just be happy, right? It wouldn't be an emotional reaction to me. So when I have an emotional reaction, it's actually communicating to me. It's telling me something. I've been pent up there, or I need to look into that area, right? It's just something that's not flowing, outflow smoothly, right? So it's a lesson. If I take it as a lesson, then I don't go and react and create a chain reaction. So I relive this stuff all over again and stuff.
Oh my God, I so relate to that because that's exactly what I experienced this week. And what I hear you saying is that, in Thomas said too, emotions are part of what we're here to experience.
Right.
And so for myself, as I move through moments where emotions get very stimulated, and it is because I was suppressing so much. And honestly, I felt it in my heart. So, other people may feel it in their liver or their gut, or, the body, like you're saying, the body holds on to a lot of things. So, but I felt so much freer once I was able to move through and express how I was, all of that had been held up and pent inside of myself as I was listening to, short podcast, clips after clip after clip. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I feel, so much freer. And then, having someone that I can relate to and share with is, to me, really important. And that's why I love living with Tom and having Tiger as a BFF too, is like, we get each other, having that camaraderie. And even if we all have different lives, even though we intertwine and do things together and experience and live together, whatever, but not all three of us, just two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but having that ability to just freely share what I need to share and get it out is so important.
Yeah. Well, before you go, I want to just make an example for myself. You brought up this beautiful example, and I'm going to take, it's the same energy. It's just a different tack, right? So it's not very long ago, I was out doing some gardening and some weed eating and stuff like that. And it hadn't been done in so long that it was going to be, the routine became a project.
Okay.
Right. Because it hadn't been done. So now it's a big deal for me to go do it. Right. And so as I'm doing it, at first I'm taking the breaks, which is what you're supposed to do. Right. Because I've got this weed eater that I'm holding, and, you run around, and the center is quite, the buildings are quite big. It's not just like I'm just going around a little house, this is like I'm getting my steps in for the week kind of feeling. There was a certain point where I started thinking about it not being done, right? Not that the routines weren't being done.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me stimulated just a little bit, not much, right? Not like I was, throwing stuff or anything like that. Nothing like that. It was just that. I'm sure most people it's this passing thing in your mind, and you just grab onto it just a little bit. And it's like, God damn it, this routines weren't done. And now it's a big deal, and I'm having to do it. And it's hot in the hot sun. And it just enough to where now I'm going to get this done, right? I don't want to have this. I want to get this done, right? So here comes now the push. I'm pushing myself now. And so most of the day I ended up pushing myself, because the thing took me from like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. to get the whole thing done with this little bloody weed eater, right? Mm. Now, I'm telling that story because I got through it all. What I did was good, but I paid a high price for it that evening. I was, not only was I tired and spent, but my body started reacting. I started to have kinks and things like that. And my tummy started reacting, and because I didn't eat properly. And so it's an example where if I let that emotional stuff, or I let outside people push on me, I'm going to start pushing or pulling or reacting instead of going full circle back. Wait a minute. I don't have to incriminate myself here. If I want to pull this 100% back to me, wait a minute. I can take a break. I can do this tomorrow. I'm not going to destroy myself because I'm having these big thoughts and pissed off about XYZ, right? So for me, that's a beautiful example of how just a little thing, little thought, and I'll just get in onto it, right? And I'm supposed to be this spiritual person. I'm going to be all holy and I'm not going to let it affect me. But it does affect me
Fucking
at
human.
the end of the day, right? And here I am pushing myself. So rather than enjoying the process, wow, look what a great job I'm doing, or wow, this hasn't been done.
Clean now.
It's very clean now. Rather than being in that energy, here I am falling in and out of that energy. So to me, that's the negative of when I let my emotions replace my true feelings. When I start letting that supplant and covering up, that's where the troubles begin and end.
One thing that's on my mind is that a soul attracts what happens to them, or I attract what, I put out.
Big pill to swallow.
It's a big pill to swallow. But as I feel that is because I have a lot of experience where I've watched myself set myself up. I've been aware, oh my God, look at the energy I'm starting to share about. And then say I'm at work, or it's like, and then the things that eventuate, I think I just having that bigger picture, being able to tune into the feeling of the bigger picture that everyone's going to go through what they need to go through. So whatever scenario I fit in, whether I was the Fauci or I was the Rand Paul, and, Rand Paul said something like, I just wish I just was hoping he'd say he was sorry, And I thought,
That's so
that's
nice.
kind of a moral issue. There's
That's
the
right.
religious concept right there, is that because what we're doing by uncovering what really happens so that we can do something better next time is great. And if I was someone that just wanted to believe, I was at that point in my life where I just believed whatever I was told and I wanted that to feel secure at that direction, that's okay. I was doing the best I could at that particular time. And if I'm becoming a little more aware, or like, oh my goodness, things aren't, that helps me shift and, really allow the God within to start to flow. And I'm having similar experiences too, where I'm noticing, just get back to your situation, your story was that I'm noticing my thoughts as I'm doing something like even editing a video, like at certain times of the day, like a little thought where I'm sort of self-incriminating myself, you might say. What an amazing thing we do here on this YouTube channel or this podcast, where we're taking something that you're seeing out in the world. The latest thing in the news is the whole Fauci hearing. So he's pleading the fifth. And so YouTube after YouTube clip is all about an excerpt from that, and then people's reaction, the emotional reaction to a statement or a gloating, oh, they got him good. They told him he was a screwball, or whatever they said. And, who do you think you are? So that's all emotion to get involved with. If I really am more, the more I can be in my true feelings about it, the better off I'm going to be as I move through my life, staying loyal. There's that word again for August.
That's right.
Staying loyal to my true feelings.
All right. So it feels like it's time to wrap up this. So final thoughts there, Tiger.
Yeah. So my wrap up is going to be a quick story on the contrast of what I just said. So I told a story about how I started pushing myself and getting caught into emotions. So my contrast story is this week as well. I went to go get shoes with my son. And so we went up to get shoes. And so sat down, and I could tell I was in the present, right? And this young lady came to serve, help us, and she was probably 18, 19, kind of thing. And she was full of, enthusiasm and stuff like that. It was real bright light. Anyway, I would, his sister was there and their mom was there and stuff. And they were there was a little bit of this all over the place thing running around the place. And so I called him over, my son. He said, okay, I want you to go ask her where the shoes are that fit you, where they are, so you can go look. And now she's standing right there, right? But I'm giving direction to him. And so he goes and asks her, and then they go over to these 2 or 3 spots, right? And so they come, so then she says, okay. And then they're both kind of standing looking at each other, right? So I tell him again, okay, now point out the ones that you want, that you like from those ones. And so he goes, oh, okay, well, and then he starts, I want this one. So she goes off and does it, right? And through this, I don't know, 20-minute time period, there was this situation where I could feel things get a little bit wobbly and excited, but people lost their direction. They, like, his sister would go running off on something, or he would start running off of something, or this lady who's helping us with the shoes, she would get flustered, right? Because there's like boxes everywhere. He's like trying all these different shoes, right? She's getting flustered because there's all these boxes, but because I wasn't involved in it, I wasn't indulging in the emotion or the over excitement of it, I was able just to say like 3-5 words and everything came back, right? So what happened is, by the end of the whole thing, everybody felt good. Everybody felt excited. There was a positive emotion in it, and everybody was jumping around and excited. But I had to maintain that energy. I had to maintain the feeling and understanding of why I was there. And when I did that, the lady came alive. She was so happy to work with us. Everything worked out great. But I could feel myself, if I got caught up in any of that, it just would have turned into another thing where this young lady, who's probably not going to be able to help us as good as she could have because she's brand new, doesn't know the mechanics yet, right? So it's, to me, my wrap up here, coming back to the loyalty of that big picture, and am I in my pivot point? Am I in my pivot point? That's part of the home study lessons this month, right? Am I in my pivot point? If I am, I'm going to work with everything just right. And not only that, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to feel present and relaxed. And everybody wins. Everybody wins around me. And to me, that's the wrap up for this is emotions are great. I want to work with them, but it needs to come from what is my pivot point first.
Yeah, I guess my wrap up, since we started with emotions, is when there are things going on the planet that I can see, and that I can hear, and that I can experience and feel in my body. When I recognize that it's a time for things to be perhaps exposed and a new layer of healing comes out from it, that to me is a win-win-win. And so it's up to myself and what I put together for myself to recognize, how do I indulge in that emotion, or do I allow that emotion to bubble up, move through, and then regroup? Okay, what was that about? Which is exactly what I did this week. So there's such power in the stories that are out there in the news every single day and week and month, and as we move through until the end of our lives. But just how does that expose part of it? How do I work with it?
Yeah, I guess my wrap up is just, boy, every day I'm alive, every week I'm alive, I'm going to hear about situations, events, people being people, going through their growing and learning experiences, and really as long as I'm having patience with myself as I move through my learning experiences and becoming aware of those thoughts and the thought habits, you might say, I have, or aware of, oh, I kind of always react like this in this situation. And I relate to both your stories, that things I've, been involved with. But if I just relax, take a deep breath and say, I'm just practicing. And then every once in a while, ask my guidance, even just every once in a while, check with my guidance. And if you don't know how to do that, we can help you learn how to do that through our courses and our profiles and subscriptions. I get an answer, and the answer is usually short and sweet and to the point, and it really helps. It begins to help me modify my behavior so that I start moving through life, flowing more successfully, or having more of those fun feelings like you were sharing about with the shoes. At the end of the day, like who doesn't want that? We all want to feel good and enjoy that the kid is all excited about his new shoes and feel the fulfillment that I was able to provide them, and all those things. So thank you for letting me share.
Well, it was hard, Tom, right, Tiger?
We got through it.
We got through it. So we want to thank you all out there for listening in to another episode of Spiritual Perspective Discerning News. And just remember that no matter what you hear and what is exposed to you and what you're exposed to, it can be very easy if you just believe in yourself, believe in your spiritual helpers and all that you put together for yourself to be right there in that perfect moment. And until next week, we'll be back in that perfect time, perfect place. See you again soon.
See you soon.
As the Earth's crust shifts and changes, our lives do the same. One way to maneuver through the small and large moments that shake us to the core is by reviving your connection to spirit, gathering ways to cleanse your energy field, embracing spiritual awarenesses to give you a bigger picture, and knowing that you are not alone on your journey can be a great support. The Soulquake Survival Guidebook is a great companion to meet you where you're at and support reviving your connection to spirit in earth-shaking times. Get your copy today through Amazon worldwide in paperback, ebook, or in audio, and begin embracing more clarity, inner peace, and enthusiasm for your life and what you've come to do.
To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.